Hey gang, this is going to be video number 4 in my series for beginning shooters. And I came down to the range today because I wanted to go over our grip and our stance, and some trigger control and some fundamental marksmanship fundamental issues. So we finally we got to where we're at the range and we're doing some shooting. You got a gun that fits you, right? And you know how to take it apart and clean it. You got it lubricated. You got it ready to go. You picked the right ammunition because you looked at the box and the box told you what kind of ammunition was in it. And then you looked at the back of the cartridge case and the back of the cartridge case told you had the right ammo. And now you got the right ammo in your gun. Or maybe you haven't loaded it yet, but you're at the range. Now, the reason why I'm walking away from the camera is because I want to be able to get far enough away to show you how your stance should be. So we're at the range and I have a table in front of me. You probably can't see it. This is going to replicate an indoor shooting range or a firing line, if you will, at any shooting range. And when you get to a firing line, that is the place where you take your gun out of its bag or out of its box or whatever you're carrying it in, and you set it down on the table in front of you and you load it and you shoot it. At no time at any shooting range that I've ever been to in the world do they want you to ever point that barrel anywhere but straight down range at your target area, and that's our target area today. So before you even take the gun out of the bag, when you open up the box or the bag or whatever it's in, and you see that the barrel is not pointed downrange, reorient the bag. Change the position of the bag so that the barrel is pointed downrange before you put your hand on it. This will alleviate any concerns from anyone shooting next to you. And you know, it's just great safe habit. Okay, ever and always, that gun should be pointed at something that can safely stop bullets and not injure anybody. All right, so I have my gun pointed downrange on my table, and I have some magazines here in front of me. I'm going to go ahead now and pick up my gun, and we're going to work on grip. The first thing I want to do is keep my fingers straight, keep the barrel pointed in a safe direction, and verify that my firearm is empty. And it is, okay? I can drop the slide or I can leave the slide open. Doesn't matter. Now, with my fingers straight, I rotate the gun. I can pick up a magazine that I have loaded, okay? And I have loaded that with range ammunition, full metal jacket, inexpensive range ammunition, not hollow point personal defense ammunition. No, you do not have to practice with hollow point personal defense ammunition all the time to know where it's going to hit on target, whatever anyone may have told you. That's way too expensive. No one does that, but everybody likes to say it's a good idea, and it's only a good idea if you have $1 million to spend on ammo. Personal defense hollow point ammunition will strike to a different point of impact than inexpensive, lower recoiling, lower velocity range ammo, but not that much to worry about. Right now we're worrying about our trigger control skills and our fundamentals of marksmanship. And while I hold this gun, so I'm going to put my index finger up by the bullets of the magazine, okay? And then without even looking at the gun, okay, I'm looking at my reflection in the camera. You got me. We can load the magazine, but just putting the magazine into the gun doesn't ensure that it's completely in the gun. So we always want to tap on it with the palm of our hand, or as you stick it into the gun, you can give it that tap, okay, and then pull on it. Now I'm using a 17-round magazine in a gun that was designed for a 15-round magazine. It's a Glock 19. I have Glock 17s, I have Glock 34s, 35s. They're all higher capacity guns, and they all take all the 9s take the same magazines, okay? And so you can have a larger magazine in there, which is a great idea for a backup magazine if you're going to carry and you got to have an extra magazine. What's the point? Maybe 2. But you can have your 15-round magazine in your Glock 19 so that it doesn't profile and bulge out under your clothes as much, but you can have your 17-round magazines straight up and down in your magazine pouches ready to go, okay? All right, so I put the magazine in the gun. Now I'm going to rack the slide with my overhand grip, right? Palm on the slide, fingertips on the slide. See how I'm bringing the gun back into my body and always keeping it pointed down range? And I'm actually stepping into my shooting stance that I'll demonstrate in a second. That's all you do. Pull the slide back and let it go. Don't ride the slide forward. Let the recoil spring do the work. Pull that slide forward and get around in there. Now, so I don't look like an idiot who didn't really load his gun because he didn't rack the slide back far enough, I'm going to do a press check, okay, by putting my fingers safely underneath the barrel of the gun and pinching the slide, and putting these fingers on the back part of the gun with using the sight for purchase, pressing the gun against my sternum, and then pinching the slide back to verify that, yeah, definitely I have loaded the gun. So I'm going to set the gun now, and I'm going to step over here so you can see my feet. I think I'm far enough away to show you what I'm talking about. Now, some guys like to stand with their knees slightly bent, square to the target, hips square to the target, knees square to the target, okay? And they drive that gun out in an isosceles stance with the gun directly out in front of their nose. Your arms and back will form an isosceles triangle. As the arms come back, the elbows lock, the arms and back form an isosceles triangle. I like to stand in a boxer stance with one foot back, pretending to be a boxer, okay? If you like this shooting style, and you like that shooting stance, it's great. It offers a nice triangular platform to lean your body forward on and get your upper body out over that recoil of that gun to keep that gun on target when you're getting into rapid fire. All right, so basically, I'm still going to run what they call a modified weaver with my arms, where my arms are not going to be locked, my elbows are not going to be locked. My shooting hand is basically locked, and my support hand is bent. It's called a modified weaver. Actually, no, they're not locked. They're not locked, okay? I don't lock my hands. I broke another shooting rule. I guess I never really studied it. I have tried the isosceles stance, and it is a great stance, and I'm not going to argue with any of the shooting positions. What I will tell you is, like I said before, we all have design flaws that make us human. So any way that you can accurately hit the target with 4 rounds a second is the way you want to shoot. Yeah, that's true. A quarter second in between rounds is good rapid fire, okay? But we're not going to start out with rapid fire. That's down the line. We're going to start out with some nice slow fire. Now, one thing you need to do in order to hit the target is you need to hold the gun steady. Okay, so I got my comfortable, relaxed shooting stance, and I'm going to drive the gun out, and I'm going to hold it steady. Okay, another thing you got to do is line up the sights. There's a front sight on your gun, I hope, and a rear sight. I hope you bought a quality gun that has sights. You're going to want to put the front sight in the notch of the rear sight as you look through, and you're going to want to put that front sight over the target you want to hit. Cover the target you want to hit with it. In most of your defensive pistols, they're basically set up for what they call a center hold, where you're basically not going to see the bullet strike theoretically, because the bullet is going right in front of the sight. So the sight blocks your view. Yeah, you're going to see the bullet strike. But that's what I'm saying. If you were a bullseye shooter, a long distance marksman, you'd probably want to go with a 6 o'clock hold, which is your sights are adjusted to put them underneath the bullseye at 6 o'clock. And then you can see the entire bullseye and know that you're where you need to be. Okay, but for defensive pistol shooting, you just drive that. You're going to be focused on a threat. You're going to be focused on, hopefully something important of his that you need to shoot. And you're going to drive that sight and cover it up with that sight, if you can even see your sights. But we'll talk about that later. I'm going to put my glasses on now because I may shoot. I haven't decided yet. I'm very impetuous. I haven't made up my mind what I'm going to do here yet. I'm just winging it. I'm going to put my earmuffs on, all right? And I'm going to pick up my gun, once again with my fingers straight, all right? I'll do another check to make sure that it is in fact loaded. And I'm going to show you guys once again what to do with that grip. Now this is how I want my thumb, pointed up to the sky. I don't want my thumb like this. I don't want my thumb like that. I want my thumb pointed up to the sky. And then I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to put the meat of my hand, the palm of my hand, over that grip. Okay, and cover that gun up, all right? And I'm going to nest my thumbs, one on top of the other, around the slide lock lever so I don't inadvertently activate that lever while I'm shooting the gun, okay? So that's my grip. Now, how do we get into that grip in a hurry? Okay, there's a great way to do it. When you rock the gun up and forward from the holster, just take your index finger of your weak hand and bring it right up under the trigger guard. And when you feel that first bone in your index finger under the trigger guard, your hand is going to be pretty much where it needs to be. Once again, work with your design flaws, okay, and make it comfortable. But you want to cover that grip up with the meat of your hand, and you want as much skin on that gun as you can get to control it on rapid fire. Now notice when I raise the gun and I pointed it at the target, I don't even want to do it because I have a round in the gun, but I'm not doing this with the barrel. All right, I'll clear the gun. I'll clear the gun and demonstrate, okay? This is what we see a lot at the range, okay? This is not efficient use of your time when you need to get your gun out quickly and deliver a shot. Okay, another thing we see is this rotation of the gun up from the holster or from the table, and that's inefficient use of the time. The ideal way to draw a gun, okay, and I have safe directions all around me on my range. I have a berm behind me. I have a berm in front of me. I'm all alone out here. I have already verified that. So I'm going to turn around, and this is just for training purposes because, you know, remember, we're pretending that this is our firing line and that is the berm. When I draw the gun just comes straight up from the holster. It rocks forward, and now it's pointed at the threat or it's pointed at the berm. I'm going to join my hands here safely at the body and drive the gun out. And I'm going to practice this in a mirror with a safe direction in front of me and an unloaded gun, right? So I know what that feels like when I lock my wrist. So basically, when I grab that gun from the holster, my wrist is now locked. And I know what that feels like. And when the gun rocks forward, I know it's pointed at the threat. And when I drive it out, I don't have to do any of this with the gun to get it on target. But that takes practice. You just got to know what it feels like, okay? When I get to that point, when I get to this point with my sights on target, I'm going to want to, at that point, when I know my sights are on target and I made the conscious decision to fire the gun, I'm going to put my trigger finger on the trigger, all right, and I'm going to squeeze the trigger all the way to the rear, and I'm going to hold it there all the way to the rear. Now, if everything went right, the gun's going to make a lot of noise at this point, and it's going to push back against my hand, and this slide is going to do that really fast, okay? Slide's going to do that really fast. And my finger is still all the way to the rear, okay? At this point, I'm going to let my finger out, and you can take it all the way off the trigger. I don't care. We'll work on trigger reset later. That's an intermediate drill. This is a beginner class. So now I'm going to go ahead and do it again and hold that trigger all the way to the rear while I've got these sights lined up nice in the middle of my target. All right. So I could pause and set this up and get the target in here, I guess, just to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So I'm going to pause my video. This is high-tech stuff, man. Hey, I'm back. All right. So I'm going to be shooting at that low steel target out there in front of me. I'm shooting at hardened steel, okay, designed to be fired at with bullets, and at a distance of at least 10 yards with handguns, okay? At least 10 yards with handguns, at least 100 yards with rifles, unless you have a specific rifle steel target that is set up at a 45-degree angle to the ground. Those you can't get any closer to than 50 yards. So let's not even worry about that right now. Let's worry about my 10-yard target. And what I want to practice at, you can practice this at the range. We're not going to shoot rapid fire at your range. We're going to just take it nice and slow, but we're going to practice shooting the gun as our elbows lock at the front of our, at the total presentation of the gun, okay? And we're going to learn how to get our sights to come up to our eyes and get on target. All right. Well, I hope I hit something. You should hear it if I do. Okay. So I'll set the gun on the bench and we'll start over again. My weak hand is going to come to my chest, right? And it's going to wait there for the gun to come into the body where I can join safely. All right. So I'm going to bring the gun up. I'm going to join now. I'm going to drive the gun out. And as I reach the my farthest point of shoving that gun out in front of me, I'm going to squeeze the trigger. My finger will go to the trigger and I'll squeeze, and we'll see if I can hit anything, okay? Oh, I hit something, all right? I immediately took my finger off the trigger because I don't want to shoot right now. I want to talk. I love to hear myself talk, okay? But I want to do it again. And if you can see my finger, good, all right? So I got the gun back in here to my body. I'm going to drive the gun out, and as I see it come into my view, I'm going to just squeeze the trigger again, hold it all the way to the rear. That's called follow through, and that's what you need to do for good marksmanship, okay? Now, what am I doing here? I'm practicing basically defensive shooting or practical shooting, okay? I'm doing it slow. I'm myelinating, okay? Creating muscle memory, if you want to use that term, but I'm teaching myself proper habits. So I'm going to drive the gun out, and when I see it on that target, and eventually what can happen if you do this right and you myelinate long enough, that sounds like something you'd cook with. It sounds like something you'd use in baking. Yeah, I myelinated my turkey 3 times. I don't know. Anyway, it's a cool word. I just love it. I'm gonna continue to use it because it's an accurate description of what we're doing here. We're teaching ourselves, we're strengthening our neural pathways, and creating a super highway of information from our brain to our muscles to get it to do what we need to do without any conscious thought. All right, I'm thinking about it consciously now. All right, I'm consciously competent at this point. I'm working to get to unconscious competence. All right, so we'll go a little faster. Gun comes up, drives forward, and I shoot the gun when I come to the end of my draw, and then I reholster, okay? So we'll go a little faster. Hands on chest, gun comes up, and you can shoot from the table at most indoor ranges. You can't draw from a holster, all right? So I'm drawing from a holster, but you don't have to. The best way to practice this is just to set the gun on your shooting table, and then pick it up, bring it in close to your body, join your hands and extend the gun and squeeze the trigger and hold it all the way to the rear when you get down there. Now, if you guys have noticed, I'm moving around with the gun a lot, but at no time has it ever been pointed anywhere but at the berm, okay? And this is safe gun handling, all right? So we got our grip. We got our stance. We got our aiming. We got our trigger control, all right? None of this stuff is easy, and none of this stuff is going to come quickly. But if you work on it diligently, you will be able to do it. And eventually, if you learn how to grip your gun and your grip is strong, you'll be able to control your gun and shoot it on rapid fire. Okay? This is something for advanced shooters. Don't try this if this is the first time you ever went to the range with a gun. They don't like rapid fire at ranges and will probably kick you out, okay? But if you take a class with somebody like me, they're going to teach you through the course of the day how to get, 2 or 3 rounds out relatively quickly with your gun. They probably won't have you going crazy on the targets like that, but they'll have you going relatively quickly with the gun, all right? So I'm really slow. I have a torn rotator cuff. I'm not drawing my gun from where I normally do because I just can't. And so I'm moving kind of slow, but we'll see if I go like this. Oh, and now I have a malfunction. I actually set that up for you. This is what they call a failure to eject. Okay. And and because it failed to eject, it failed to feed that second round into the gun. So to clear that, all right, in a defensive gun use or in a hurry, the way this looks, I'm going to have to drop my magazine, and because it's a Glock, I can push the magazine release button, pull the magazine out, stow it under my arm, rack the slide, rotating the gun to the right, letting gravity help me do that, then reacquire the magazine, put it back into the gun, rack the slide, and go back to work, okay? What are we up to here? 20 minutes. If anybody's still watching, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Find me on Facebook. If anybody has any questions at all, find me on Facebook or find my website, sentinelfirearmstraining.com, and send me an email. Let's all stay safe, guys.